Welcome to Aspen Collective Gallery, where we're excited to have our first exhibition with Chris Erickson with his solo show, Super Ultra Mega. It's a real pleasure to launch the space with your art, and given your connections to the Roaring Fork and everything that you've done here in Aspen has been incredible, and in the whole valley. And the title of the show is Super Ultra Mega. Can you talk a little bit about this idea for this exhibition?
Yeah, so the concept behind Super Ultra Mega started as this idea of trying to harness creativity or ideas that spark some sort of artistic initiative. So it's hearing, when you hear that song or that music that you're standing in front of these musicians playing, and you get that charge in your body, and you get chills. And like I always would get that intermittently from music or a gallery show, a museum show, something like that. And I always was interested in trying to harness that. Like, how do you like capture that supercharged like nitro energy, and try to, more importantly, infuse that into like the work, and how to like create a life of its own and put that power into the piece, which is so Super Ultra Mega is the concept behind that.
Okay, great. Yeah, and one of the reasons why we were so excited to show your work is to give this space new life and energy. So it's been this great fit because the previous gallery that was in this space, Valley Fine Art, was here for 17 years. And to sort of launch a new initiative, we painted the walls, we got all new lighting, we had a whole new kind of energy coming into this place. And so having your work in here to kind of launch this thing was like the kickstart that we needed. One of the pieces that really struck me in your work is the melting gondola that was on top of Aspen Mountain. Then we see you painting the street out here in front of the Wheeler Opera House where we're located. We see your public art initiatives on Cooper Avenue. You've been a big part about bringing public art into the system, and I know you've done numerous installations. So can you talk a little bit about art in public spaces and what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, it brings people together, which is cliche, but it really does. It's I think the most interesting towns I find visiting or traveling to have a vibrant art scene. I don't think it's a coincidence, And public art, I think, even takes it to a different level because it's interactive. You don't have to go inside of a gallery, to see the work, which is just a different experience. It's you interact with it. It's around you. You walk on top of it, or it's casting shadows. And then to make it, like for instance, the mural here in front of the Wheeler, it's the ultimate community endeavor. It's bringing people together. You're having conversations. You're introducing each other. People come from all over the place to be here in Aspen. So, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and we're lucky to be here at the 50-yard line in the center of town in this beautiful light-filled space. One of the things that impresses me about you is you're not just a 2D visual artist, you're a fabricator, you're a sculptor, you're a painter. Can you talk a little bit about this work and the process and kind of how you make your work, at least the 2D stuff?
Yeah, so it comes back to that initial concept of Super Ultra Mega. So that's some sort of baby that's birthed, and it's this concept or idea that I'll jot down, and I always carry a sketchbook, so maybe I'll sketch something out, and it's typically derives from something I see, an image, and I kind of think about capturing like maybe it's a combination of colors or shapes that captivate me. And I take those, it can start as just this very rudimentary juxtaposition of a few colors in an advertisement on a bus or wherever, it doesn't matter. And then I take that and try to develop it into something more meaningful and play off the language that's existing there and kind of just build it. And I usually take those into the computer and I draw on the computer is kind of the next step. Take that image, project it onto a foam core. I cut the stencils by hand and then spray out the stencils with spray paint. And yeah, that's how we complete the pieces.
Okay, so we have these very flat 2D works, but the show here is also composed of a lot of these beautiful smaller sculptures. So, you know, whereas this is flat and a square, you've also got these really complicated layered small pieces. So can you talk a little bit about the smaller works and how you turn this from 2D into 3D?
Yeah, I've always thought of myself more as a sculptor than a painter. The paintings are mimicking sculptural techniques. So the smaller pieces, I'm more interested in creating these shadows and layers, and it's a wall sculpture in essence. So it's really, you know, delineated by a painting versus a sculpture, and sometimes the image calls for more of a sculptural approach versus a two-dimensional flat panel.
And you've got these massive sculptures in here. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how you make these to be so large and move them around. How are your feelings about smaller works versus massive pieces?
You know, it communicates a different idea. Yeah, you'd scale as an artist. You're taught at a very early age that scale is just another tool for expression. You know, so taking a tiny little piece and taking that exact same language and imagery and blowing it up 50 times, it's a totally different piece of art. So I'm playing with that, trying to create a little more of a dramatic impact by just increasing the scale. And I'm really fascinated with how it's perceived and how it translates into just larger scale.
And what I like to see is this like multi-dimensional, multifaceted approach to your work. What do you have in your mind's eye about what's next?
What's next? What I usually do after a show like this is a big release. It's all this energy that's been harnessed and, you know, put into different places, and it manifests into these pieces of work, right? So after a show, I like to take all the images. Usually I look at photographs from the installation and see the way the work plays off itself, and I think that informs what's next. You know, that's when I start getting more ideas about how the body of work grows as a unit. And so that's kind of the fun. That's the narrative component of it. I think it's storytelling in essence. So yeah, we'll see.
And one of the things I love is in your artist statement, you talked a lot about like energy, but also like your kind of journey. And one of the things you mentioned was like Denver back in the day, and skaters and subcultures and all these things. So one of the things I was like really fascinated about was like the birth of your artistic journey. Mm-hmm. And can you talk just briefly about like how you came to be inspired to be an artist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that absolutely plays into the story. You know, I grew up in Denver. I was born in all these kind of benchmark kind of events that happened. I was born in 1970. 1980, I was kind of coming into age. Punk rock was really flourishing in Denver. The first show I ever saw was Black Flag with Henry Rollins. I was 15 years old. You know, that's kind of like the super ultra mega concept. You know, it's like, yeah, it's like, I mean, I'll never forget it. It's so profound. And then that, you know, all over town were, you know, concert flyers pasted all over with, you know, The Exploited, Minor Threat, and all these bands coming through Denver. Had a really amazing scene, and that in itself was like a gallery, because it's, you know, hand-drawn flyers just pasted on lamp poles, and, you know, you pull those off and put them in your room, and it's, you know, Raymond Pettibone and, you know, all these like huge influential artists, like basically putting their work out there for everybody to access. And that's kind of another critical component. It's all super accessible. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to buy a book. You don't have to, this is pre-internet, of course, all that. So, and then that transitioned into skateboarding, which to me dovetailed really well into the music and everything. That was, I think, the first art I really made was riding a skateboard. You know, you can express yourself. It's, you know, you're kind of riding a paintbrush. You know, you go anywhere you want, and you know, you express yourself by skating.
Yeah. One of the things I admire about you is how kind of art is pervasive in your life. And after visiting your studio in your home and seeing how you live, and you mentioned like putting a piece up in your place, but art seems to like be a constant theme of the way you live your life. And so can you talk about how art is involved in every facet of your life?
Well, if you think about everything that's crafted or built by hands is essentially a sculpture, a piece of art. So I think, you know, a challenge of aging is to approach life with curiosity. You know, we lose that as we get older, and we just walk mindlessly down the street without, you know, really paying attention and absorbing like what's around us. So I try to, and I'm not always successful in this, but I try to like really take in what's being thrown at me, you know. And so every day, I think the idea is of what I want to make is hopefully the materials are kind of driving the idea, you know. So I try to be well versed in welding or woodworking or painting or whatever, based on, you know, what needs to be expressed. So
one of the things we have in common is I like to tell people in life 2 pieces of advice. One is never make a movie, and 2 is never restore Airstream trailers by hand. And you've got a couple really beautiful pieces. So can you just talk briefly about this idea of taking something that's old with classic design and remaking it into something sexy, classy, and beautiful? And talk a little bit about that project.
Yeah, it's kind of the ultimate challenge in a way. For background, my wife and I acquired a 1947 Spartan Mansion trailer, which was along the same vein as the Airstream, just a different builder, manufacturer. And these things are, just like an Airstream, they're like beautifully crafted. I mean, it is, you peel away the layers and start restoring it, and you realize how much thought and just meticulous craftsmanship and detail goes into building them. So you honor the original, you know, craftsman that built these things by, you know, bringing some life back into them. And it's like astounding how well this thing holds up. It's, you know, 80 years old and still doesn't leak a drop of water, you know. And so anyway, rebuilding it and honoring it by trying to bring it back to life has been super challenging. It's tough.
But fulfilling.
But it's very fulfilling. You're not there yet, but Once we get it done, it'll be even better.
Yeah. And so, one of the things we're so honored is to have your energy in this new space and to give this like the launch that we wanted with the talent of your work, but also the energy that it brings. And can you talk just briefly about what it's been like to work in this space and with my team?
First and foremost, this is an anomaly in Aspen, having the youth and energy that you've put into this place, and in a bit of an oasis in terms of that. We have, of course, all the blue chip artists and real heavy hitter galleries in town, which is phenomenal. But to have a place where local artists and emerging artists can showcase their work, and it's been tremendous. And it's heartfelt what you've been doing, and I think everybody is responding so well to the movement that you made.
Well, thank you. Well, we're honored to have you here.
Yeah.
Love you.
Love you, man.
Great work.
Thanks,
And thank you. Come visit us. We are showcasing Chris's work at the Aspen Collective 213 South Mill in the historic Wheeler Opera House. And thank you for watching. And thank you for our talented team putting this all together. And keep an eye on us. And we'll continue to hit you with more beautiful art.
Thanks, DJ.